Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now, parents of children born through surrogacy, they say they are living in legal limbo. This is despite legislation being signed into law nearly 2 years ago that was meant to deal with this issue.
Campaigners met with the Oireachtas members yesterday to call for urgent action, and joining us to discuss is mother of four Sinead Gallagher-Hedderman and spokesperson for Irish Families Through Surrogacy, Cathy Wheatley. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Great to have you both with us.
Thank you.
Cathy, can you just start off by giving us the current legal situation for parents of children born through surrogacy, please?
Yes, I can, absolutely. The current legal situation is that the biological father is recognised through the court process in a declaration of parentage. Unfortunately, the woman who gives birth to the children is classed as being their mother, even if there's no genetic relationship, which there really never is in surrogacy. Gestational surrogacy is when somebody carries a child that has no relationship to them. And it's really important that people understand the difference. Where I am now, so I am a mother of three. My firstborn, baby Helen, died at birth. And I had no choice but to avail of surrogacy to have my family. I'm now a mother of amazing twins, Ted and Elsie, who are 6 years old. But I'm not legally their mother. And that's something that, it weighs heavily on us. And I often say, as a mother of a child, a stillborn child, my arms were empty and I was invisible. And as a mother of two amazing children now, I'm still invisible.
And I can see how much this affects you. These are your babies, of course. And Sinead, this situation, just to really drive this home for people, you're a mother of four.
Yeah.
One of your children was born through surrogacy. Yeah. So say you wanted to do something for your four kids. You wanted to go away on a flight, or you needed to do something with a GP. Yeah. With three kids, you're like, OK, off we can go on a flight. Yeah. But for your other child, you would have to get written permission from your husband?
Yeah, I do, actually. And I'm actually bringing Theo away for the first time myself with my mum and the smallest sister, Hallie. And, I have to get a letter of consent off my husband to bring Theo out of the country.
To be allowed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need it just in case. Now,
I know it's just in case, but this is the legal situation you're in. For your baby, you have to get... a man's approval to be allowed to do that.
Not only for that, but for lots of other stuff.
I suppose, it's the medical side, I suppose. I encountered... I had a fabulous GP, family GP, and he sadly passed away. He was really supportive to us as a family, through our fertility struggles. And when we had Theo, he was just absolutely amazing. And he said, I said to him, obviously, about the legal situation. He was aware of it anyway. But he just said, Sinead, I wouldn't be acting in the best interest of Theo or you as a family if I didn't allow you to bring Theo in. But I suppose it's a very grey area for the medical professionals as well. And subsequent to that, I suppose, the loss of the GP, we moved practice. And the new practice was part of a business model. So we had, it was a group of a GP practice.
It's not like your local GP.
Yeah. OK, so it's not the traditional one we would have grown up with. But basically for them, I had to get written approval from Mark. Mark had to email them in written approval.
And they had to give it to their legal team, didn't they?
And it had to be reviewed.
By their legal team.
For 2 months, I was left in, a really, really precarious position because Mark travels for work, was on the west coast of America for 2 weeks. And I was unable to bring Theo, but I could bring my twins. So I'm bringing
she
three
couldn't
kids
access
in
medical treatment for her child. And as a mother, as a second parent, the position that puts you in, all any parent wants to do is protect their child. Of
course.
And this is one of numerous challenges. You met with the Oireachtas members yesterday. I can't see how there's anybody against this. I'm sure, of course, there are going to be groups that are against it. But on the whole, this is something that we would see would make a lot of sense. So why is this not being moved forward with government? Or what is the current situation with it?
So currently the situation is that the Assisted Human Reproduction Bill of 2024, like you said, 2 years ago now since we celebrated outside the steps of Leinster House, unfortunately, we knew at the time that there would be supplementary legislation that was needed in order for all families to be covered. And it is very much needed. But we were absolutely clearly told that the intent was, during that time when supplementary legislation was coming forward, that our children would be protected by law. We should have been able, we were given a date to be able to apply to the court.
Given numerous dates.
Numerous dates.
Like,
they've all passed. You know what I mean? And it keeps being pushed out. And I suppose the argument from them, is that they want the ARA, the Assisted Human Reproduction Authority, set up, and they want the supporting legislation through.
OK, so let's just break this down, because every TD politician I've ever spoken to, and across the board, everyone's like, oh yeah, of course, of course. Yeah. Like, no one has said no to this. They wanted to go through the houses of the Oireachtas. But you're basically saying, because there needs to be, we call them quangos, I have no idea, a group set up with a physical building that they can do a bit of work. Yeah,
they need employees, they need all of that.
They need to source the building.
And you know, they do. But the problem,
and I understand that, of course it does need...
The ARA and the supplementary legislation is not needed to protect the children that are here. Part 12 of the Assisted Human Reproduction Act allows for regularisation and parental orders to be given of people from past surrogacy arrangements. They do not need any of that stuff for us to be able to go to court and get our children protected.
So what department would this be fall
So it's a couple of departments.
Health and Justice.
Health and Justice.
So this is a problem then, is that getting them to talk to each other.
Yeah. But now health predominantly, and I think
and they're already with a massive overspend we were just talking about yesterday as well. So the huge issues and management there seems to be a problem.
Well, it is important to say though, Tommy, because for the years beforehand, for 4 years, we worked with the Department of Health, with the Department of Justice, with the officials there. There was Trojan work done. Absolutely.
I think as well, Cathy, the change in the government, that kind of knocked us.
Of course, changes the legislative.
And there's new people coming in, and I suppose the traditional supports that we would have had in place, and we would have had a really well-established relationship with some of the ministers, they were obviously gone from government. So there was a period of transition, and
we allowed them that time. You know, we understood that things have to happen. So 2 years we've allowed for that. But every day that goes on, our children are vulnerable, legally unprotected and stigmatised. They're stigmatised now because the children are old enough to understand. We had a beautiful 13-year-old girl in with us yesterday talking, Sophia Carroll, talking about how her mother is her mother and how aware she is now. And the main issue for us is she's 13. Some of these children are going to age out. Guardianship only lasts until 18. We do not, even if you get guardianship now, you do not have a legal lifelong relationship with your children. And that has other implications.
Inheritance tax.
Exactly, that's it.
You know, but it's not even about those, like for me anyway, and I know a lot of people, it's about the effect on the kids.
Of course.
It's like, and that's central to it. And the way Sophia put it yesterday was just so simplistic.
She got a standing ovation, everyone.
It was so simplistic, and it was amazing just listening to her, because I suppose we're the parents, and obviously we're advocating for our kids because our kids are quite young. But to actually have a child's
lived experience from what they have,
and for them to kind of process it and put it into words, it was just, the magnitude of it was immense.
Hopefully someday we'll have you in here actually saying this has all been sorted. Sinead Gallagher-Hedderman and Cathy Wheatley from Irish Families Through Surrogacy. Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate it. Thank you
again, 0896 111 111 if you've gone through this, if you were there and heard that speech yesterday, we'd love to hear from you on it as well. Right, coming up next, we're going to be talking about drinking in the airport. There you have it. See you after this short break.